Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast, and we are back on track. We are back to normal, if that's what you want to call it, because it is fight week, folks. Come on, man. For the last 4 weeks, we've had to fill the void. We have to do little episodes here and there, kind of talking about previews, notes, news, but now we're talking about fights, and we have a good fight card on our hand. Now, I will say it has been a little decimated and reconstructed and all that, but I'll talk about that in 1 second. First, let me bring on my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe Bomber. Brother, what's happening, man? Listen, AJ, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hyped are you to have fights returning and to have a main event like Kattar versus Giga Chikadze? Let's talk about it, brother. What you think?
Derick, like the old Varsity Blues movie, I give it a 10.
That's right.
10, brother. I am so fucking excited for fights, man. You said it best. We're here to talk about fights, and there's nothing I love more than breaking it down with you, brother. I am so excited to have it back to it feels like a little bit of normalcy back again, brother. It's good to see you. How you living, my man?
I'm living good, man, and it's back to the routine right now. I did all my fight prep. I've been breaking down film. I got all the X's and O's ready to go, man. This is something that has been missing from my life from the last 4 weeks, but guess what, man? I'm ready. I'm motivated. I know you are, because folks, as you can see right behind me, the belt, I am the winner of the 2021 head-to-head tourney, right? But it's 2022. It is a new day, a new tournament. The score is 0-0, and starting this week, we racking them up and seeing who is going to start out ahead, in this 2022 head-to-head pick'em tournament. So if you're not familiar with the rules, folks, let me go over it real fast. Basically, it's simple. Every single week, there's going to be a fight card, whether it's UFC. On the weeks where there's no UFC, we might go jump on a Bellator card or whatever the case may be. But basically, on the main card, so generally 5-6 bouts, we're going to be doing our pick'em for that one. Not on the prelims, but on the main card. And every single week, we will rack them up, whether you go 5-0, 3-2, 2-3, whatever the case may be. And over the course of the year, we added up who has the best percentage, accuracy-wise, gets a shiny brand new belt. Not the one behind me. It's going to be a new one, because we're going to be commemorating for the 2022 season. So with that being said, the rules are clear. AJ, you already know what the game is, man. And this is something that is unique to the Bloody Water Podcast, folks. So if you like it, drop a like, subscribe. You can see in the bottom right corner, if you are watching, a QR code. Feel free to drop a little bit of bread over there for us if you dig the show. And if you don't feel like you're able to do that, you're not in a situation, well, that's fine. Like I said, drop a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, newly on Spotify, because it helps and it goes a lot further than you think. Last thing before we start getting into stuff, AJ, man, listen, I got it on the way, should be here in maybe a day or two, but the first piece of Bloody Water Podcast merch is almost here, brother. So folks, use code BWP10 for 10% off all purchases at checkout for our online storefront. You can find it at bloodywaterpodcast.com. Just go over to the merch tab, all that good stuff, man. AJ, I know you said we got socks, you hyped up over it. In the near future, we're gonna have a lot more stuff. We're gonna be rocking it in the future, brother. You got any words on that?
Woo, like you said, Derick, we rocking in the future. And not only that, we're staying current with the stuff y'all like. They got little women crop tops. Man, if you like the crop top too, man, I ain't judging nobody. Get yourself some swag. Hit us with that BWP10 for that 10% off. We're grinding up here. We're growing as a company. I love to see it. Get yourself some socks. Like I said, I'm getting me some socks, a hoodie. Go support the homies so we can get our game up, as well as get your own game up going.
There we go. Listen, man, there's few people that cut promos better than my guy AJ, man. So he just cut it for you right there, folks. Get ready. So AJ, man, this is another thing that we do, and this is something that's going to go towards the end of the year award show, when we get there. But it's the beginning. We can't think too far ahead. But we need to start off with our first poster review, of the year, my man. And I'm not going to lie. I wanted to talk to you about this earlier. I was like, where was this at last year? You know what I mean? Look at this first poster. Where was this at last year, man? We had a couple duds last year. So let's talk about it. Let's get straight into it, man. Kattar versus Giga Chikadze. This is looking like a damn Marvel movie poster or something right here, man. I love to see it. I love the colors. I love the crackedness, all that, man. So just describe to the people what you're seeing and rate it 1 to 10 for me, brother. What do you think?
Like you said, Derick, I don't know where this was last year, but they're finally listening. I'm taking it, man, because it came out of the gate with an absolute banger. Yeah. You said Marvel. This one reminds me of like a Dragon Ball Z, man. True. This is like a Frieza versus Goku kind of thing we got going going on. I love the colors. I don't know exactly if they're red, blue, pink, whatever, purple. They look amazing either way, man. These colors are popping. Looks neon. You got the two fighters blending into the blue bottom, the pink top, red top, whatever color it is. I like this one a lot, man. I'm ranking this one high up. I'm going 9, first one out the gate, man.
You know what?
You know I can't give them perfect, but this is damn near. This is like a 9.8, brother. This is damn good. What are you ranking this?
This one is damn good, and it's funny because I knew you wouldn't give it a 10. I was all like, I know the man has high standards, and I actually felt the same. I said, okay, I can't give it a 10 off of the bat just because I can't use last year's posters as a comparison for this year's. This is a new year, so who's to say? Maybe we have 15 more posters that are 10 times better than this one. So I'm in the same boat, brother. I got to start it off with a 9. If this was last year, this would get an 11 out of 10, just because that's how on par the last year's posters were. But 9s across the board for us. I will jot that down. Noted. They're coming out the gate strong, and you love to see it, man. So I'll pull that down. And folks, I do want to talk about this card before we actually jump into sleepers and all of that good stuff, man. So the first thing that we need to talk about is that a million bouts got canceled in this card. This was a very fun card until it got reconstructed, and it's still a very fun card. But I'm going to pull up the Tapology page right now, if you don't mind. All right, folks. So if you're rocking with me, rock with me here. You can see, okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 canceled bouts. More canceled bouts than we actually have bouts on the card. We had some really fun bouts that got canceled. For an example, Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Al Hassan had to withdraw, but nonetheless, that bout got rescheduled. Michel Paeta versus Muslim Salikov. That one got scrapped out. Salikov, he had to withdraw. We had a replacement, Andre Fialho, that got moved to 270. A lot of these bouts got moved to 270. UFC 270 is what I'm speaking about, folks. So if you can just see here, there's a lot of potential, and a lot of these bouts are getting moved on to other cards. So it's not like these things are gone forever, but it is something that is interesting to think about because AJ, man, like, we had Ashley Yoda versus Vanessa Demopoulos. Vanessa Demopoulos, if you don't remember, she's a former LFA champion. Now, I think she's 0-1 in the UFC, but that's nonetheless. Demopoulos, she got a new bout versus Sylvia Juarez Gomez, I think, and that got rescheduled, man. So I don't know what the UFC's game was here or what their plan was. It kind of seemed like this card got put together on the fly, in my opinion. I wanted to ask you, though, straight off of the bat, in terms of cards like this, when you see stuff like this, do you ever wonder, okay, maybe, like when we have these withdrawals, we just talked about undisclosed injuries in the last show, folks, so go reference that if you don't know what we're talking about. And I got a lot of backlash, believe it or not, because people are like, no, you shouldn't have to disclose your injuries. But like, you see a lot of withdrawals, but you don't have reasons why. So what do you make of that? You know what I mean? When you hear that, are you thinking people just weren't ready? Well, is it the case of the UFC scheduling bouts and it's not really put together completely? Like, just, what do you make of this?
I mean, it's confusing because I see both sides of this. Sometimes things happen in camp. You get an injury, you just can't fight. It's not in your best interest to go out there, lose half your pay for doing something that you weren't at your 100%. At the same time, though, you're never really fighting at 100%. You're always feeling a little injured. So anytime I see these crazy kind of withdrawals, there's what's nice is there's only 1 or 2, that have been rescheduled due to COVID. So a lot of these were other situations that could have probably happened regardless of the time frame that's going on in the world right now. Yeah. When I see stuff like this, it makes me curious as to how long in advance they're booking the fight, so that way the fighters know, oh, hey, I got a fight coming up in 8 weeks. I got to stay prepared. Got to do all this, that, cross the X's and O's. Or is it just something they're throwing at them like, hey, man, I told you got to fight this day, but I finally got your opponent for you. You got 4 weeks to prepare. A little too much, a little too close to the line. It could be one of that or the other. I honestly wish they just had a little bit more communication or knowledge of why these things got withdrew. That way it just provides it to us who are out here speculating.
Transparency, would you say, right? So I agree with you, and that was my whole thing, dude, because I was saying in all the other sports you have the transparency, but then I got a lot of replies on the video for the undisclosed injuries. This was on Reddit, and basically a lot of people were just saying like, well, why would I disclose my injuries? It's nobody's business, and so someone can target that, and all that. And I'm just like, okay, those are some of the arguments you were making. So I was like, fair point, but at the same time, in all other sports it's fair game. So I don't know, but I did just want to say, I'm going to pull it up one more time real fast. So it's interesting because right here, this Michel Paeta versus Andre Fialho, yes, that was rescheduled to COVID. This one for Said Yokob Kakramanov, this is actually inaccurate. He did not test positive for COVID. He actually tested positive for influenza. So that's the flu, right? You know, so it's interesting because it's written here as COVID, but there are other illnesses in the world and all that stuff, folks. That's neither here nor there. I just wanted to talk about that before we get into the sleepers and all of that good stuff. So as far as intros go, once again, folks, you don't see anything up here in terms of like a scoreboard because it's 0-0. You know what I'm saying? Let's rock. Let's get into it. Let's get into some sleepers, brother. So
it's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
all right, brother. So listen, man, there's not that many to choose from, to be honest with you. We only got 4 prelim belts on the card right now. One of your original sleepers actually got moved up to the main card, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of an adjustment. And I'd like you to start off, brother. Let's talk about your first sleeper. We got number 37 ranked Brian Boom Kelleher versus number 105 ranked Kevin Crash Croom. And the one caveat to this matchup, folks, is that these are basically Kevin Croom stepped in last second for Brian Kelleher, who was supposed to fight Said Jokob Kakramanov, who got the influenza, all that. This is a featherweight bout. Even though Brian Kelleher is a bantamweight, he was willing to move up a weight class to 145 to fight a natural featherweight in Kevin Croom. So let's talk about it, brother. Why is this your sleeper?
Well, and that's Brian Kelleher's status right there, bro. This dude doesn't give a fuck. He's down to fight whoever. And I loved Kelleher for that, dude. This dude's an absolute machine. Great on the ground and pound, power in the hands. If you're not familiar with who Brian Boom Kelleher is, what are you even doing at this point, man? You ain't even watching the shows. You ain't watching MMA. This dude has been around for such a long time, and Boom is the perfect, very apt nickname for this guy, man. This dude will put an absolute hole through your face. And honestly, Kevin Croom, basically same thing, except he's a lot younger, man. He's very young in the UFC, but has a lot of experience out there in the the regional scenes and on the come up. Basically, this dude is a self-proclaimed honey badger, and he fights exactly like that. Very forceful, very much forward. He's going to be on the hunt the entire time, willing to walk you down and swing for every single fence that's out there. Doesn't matter where you are, he's going to be swinging for the fences, trying to put your head in the 4th row back there, man. Good on the takedowns, and like I said, he's always hunting. Now, Derick, I picked this one as a sleeper. Well, one, because like you said, there's only 4 sleepers and there's a lot of them there, but this one stood out to me specifically because it's going to be all action, man. These two dudes going at it. Croom reminds me of a younger and a taller Kelleher. So you have basically the same forces going at each other. It's going to be fireworks from the jump. Yeah. What are you taking away from this fight, Derick?
Well, I think it's a very fun matchup. And as far as saying that Kevin Croom is younger, he's definitely younger experience-wise in the big show, right? Because, I mean, Brian Kelleher is 7-5 in the UFC. The man's 35 years old. He's got 35 roughly fights to his name, so it's like a very experienced man. Kevin Croom, though, is not too far behind, 21-13, 0-1 and 1 no contest in the UFC. So he's yet to pick up his actual first win in the UFC, even though he got robbed by one. He got a win over Roosevelt Roberts that got overturned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, I believe because of a test on marijuana, which then, maybe a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, no, it's all good now. Don't worry about it. So he's like, can I get my win back, maybe? Either way, I do think it's going to be a fun matchup because if you saw Kevin Croom in his last fight against Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, you saw that he was all pace, all action. And it didn't really work out in his favor because Caceres was able to kind of counteract all of that energy, tire him out, and get the unanimous decision win. As for Brian Kelleher, one thing that I do think is interesting is I believe it was his fight either against Ricky Simone or Cody Stamann, but I'm pretty sure it was Ricky Simone, where they moved up to 145 too, just because it was like short notice. We're both one bantamweights. We'll just move up to 145 for this fight. The big caveat that I see in this one, though, is Kevin Croom is a natural featherweight. So if you look at the height and the reach disadvantages for Kelleher, they're pretty substantial. Kevin Croom is 5'11", Brian Kelleher is 5'6". Kevin Croom has a 73-inch reach, Brian Kelleher has a 66-inch reach. So I think that's going to play a big factor. However, you're right, brother. I mean, Brian Kelleher, he wants to bring it to you. So that reach disadvantage doesn't mean anything when both forces are both coming at each other like that. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a banger. I do like Brian Kelleher in this matchup, even though Kevin Croom is the bigger man. And the reason why is just because I think he's a little more durable, has a little more experience. And when it comes down to it, cardio is not going to be an issue for him for all 3 rounds. Let me just ask you lastly, do you think that James Krause and Glory MMA, because that's the camp that Kevin Croom trains under, do Do you think that he has tried to revamp the approach of Kevin Croom to be a little less wild, a little less erratic, and a little more focused so that he doesn't run into those cardio issues, doesn't run into those same problems he had against Bruce Leroy? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I 100% think they have, man. Excuse me. That's a good thing about a camp like that's coming out of James Krause, man. Sorry, Derek.
It's all right, brother. I'll take over. Do your thing. I'll take
you're
over.
Good, you're good.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I like what they're doing out of Glory MMA.
Look, take a second, brother. Take a second. Listen, folks, we'll do a brief intermission. Let me move on. So let me talk a little bit more about this, okay? I think that James Krause, the famed coach out of Glory MMA, it's going to be very important for him to try to calm down the approach of a Kevin Croom. And the reason why I say that is because when you have that balls to the wall action, when you have that nonstop, incessant, I'm just coming to take your head off, I want to submit you, that's really what his main game plan is. He has 6 knockouts, 10 submissions, 5 decisions. So when you're going with that approach, man, it's easy to gas yourself out. It's easy to put yourself in a situation where your aggressiveness can be counteracted. Because the last thing that you necessarily want to do is to be aggressive, but not to be focused, not to be disciplined, not to be balanced. You don't want to overuse your base, if that makes sense, folks. So I think that Brian Kelleher has a real advantage in this fight, and the odds kind of prove it as well, because he's a minus 300 favorite with a plus 250 comeback for Kevin Croom, who's obviously taking it on short notice. So that definitely factors in. So, all right, brother, if you good, give me some thoughts. What are you thinking?
Yes, Derek, I'm good. And I agree with you 100%, man. And why I like this one a lot, or what I was trying to say before I coughed up a little bit, is that I like the fact that with these big coaches, they're able to see that game plan and see something from the side of the ring that the fighter isn't really noticing, because all they're thinking about is going forward. Like Kevin Croom said, he's a honey badger, man. All he knows is attack. All he knows is going forward. Well, when you have a good coach on the side that says, hey, I like that attack, but then we got to switch it up a little bit, change just a little bit, tweak a little bit of the game plan. I think that's where it's going to come into play. Not dumping that gas tank, staying a little bit more composed, and like you said, staying focused in the attack, not just seeing red and going crazy.
Yeah, man. The last thing that I got to say on this one is that Kevin Croom has 1 submission win in his last 5 fights. All 3 of his wins, though, 1 unanimous decision, 1 split decision, 1 submission in the first round. So he's kind of that first round submission guy who is all out, ready to get it in the first round. It'll be interesting. It'll be a fun fight. But that's the first sleeper that we got. So as for my sleeper, let me set this one up. This is a really fun one, folks. And this is a fun one if you're a big fan of grinders. And not everybody is, and I understand that, but I am. So I'm going to set it up. You got number 60 ranked Court McGee in the welterweight division, the crusher Court McGee, who's facing off against a savage prospect in Ramiz Brahimaj. And the reason why this is a sleeper to me is because you have a Court McGee who is a wrestler, anti-submission guy, a man who's never been submitted in his 32 fight career. And then you have a Ramiz Brahimaj who is 9-3, and all 9 of his victories have come via submission. So when you have the anti-submission wrestling guy versus the pure submission guy, it's going to be a fun matchup. And real fast, AJ, brother, just turn me down in the monitors just a little bit, brother. So listen, folks, the reason why this is going to be fun as well is because Court McGee is such an experienced veteran. If you know anything about the UFC, you know Court McGee's name. I mean, in the UFC, he's 9-9, so he got a 500 batting record. Not the worst thing in the world, but not the best thing in the world either. So obviously, what you want to do is get that 1 fight above 500, keep the streak going. For Ramiz Brahimaj, you got to think about it, though. His first fight in the UFC was against Max Griffin. And if anybody remembers this name at all, then you remember Max Griffin dropping an elbow in the 3rd round to Ramiz Brahimaj, the side of his head and his ear hanging halfway off of his head. It was a very gruesome injury, The fight got called immediately. And that was actually the first time that Brahimaj had ever been stopped on strikes ever in his career. So didn't get finished. He's very durable. He was a little beat up, but his ear was hanging off. He comes back in the next fight against a very, very good Sasha Palatnikov, who was hailing out of Hong Kong, a man who is a savage of a fighter, takes him down with a blast double immediately and submits him with a rear naked choke. It was simple. That was the game plan. And it goes to show that the man said, all right, let me stop playing around with this boxing stuff. Let me stop trying to strike with these strikers, and let me just go to my bread and butter, get the submission, get in and get out. The smart game plan, if you really think about it. But the question that I have for you, AJ, in this sleeper is, do you think Brahimaj can do that against Court McGee? I mean, Court McGee, he does have a 69% takedown defense, so it's not the greatest, but a lot of people have tried to take him down, and a lot of people have failed, and a lot of submission artists have gotten put on their back when he's in a half guard position, just smashing down on their face. So do you think Brahimaj, the young 29-year-old Brahimaj, can get it done against the 37-year-old Court McGee?
The question is, does the young Brahimaj have something in up his sleeves that Court McGee hasn't seen? That's a hard question right there, because Court's been doing it forever, and like you said, has never been submitted easily. Maybe not easily taken down, but can be taken down. Is willing to go there because he knows how to flip things around, flip the script to where he's the one on top position, more an advantage. And once he's there, man, he's smashing. Man, I love Court McGee as a fighter. The Crusher is a perfect name for it. But Brahimaj, don't get me wrong, this dude, literally the first note I have for him is this dude is one of the future fighters that has a long run in the UFC. He can start really stringing some submissions together, gets the hands a little bit better. He's an absolute dog, and he can be there for a very long time, man. And going up against Court McGee is really just a statement of how good this dude is, because they're not going to send, just a non-submission guy, like just a normal guy to try and go and fight Court McGee. Like, it's a huge step up. So this is a very, very touted match that I see coming forward. Can Brahimaj do it? Can he get a submission? I don't necessarily think so, because that's a lot of ring hours and mat hours that Court McGee has seen, and he's had time to prepare for this fight. Yeah. So he has a lot of submission guys in his camp that are trying a whole bunch of different stuff, starting him off in bad positions. I don't necessarily see it happening. Do you?
Listen, it's tough, man, just because I don't want to doubt Ramiz Brahimaj after what he did in his last fight. I bet for Sasha Palatnikov because I know how good Sasha is. And he's a striker. He's not this grappler type dude, right? But Ramiz Brahimaj came in with the blast double and just finished him immediately. Like he said, I'm taking what I want. He screamed after. It was primal. It was nasty. And Court McGee, he can kind of be a little bit of a slow starter at times, so it's going to be interesting. But I did want to point out, you made a good point. If we're looking over here at Court McGee's record, if you look at the people he's fought, these are killers, dude. Ben Saunders, Sean Strickland, Alex Garcia, Diego Lima, Sean Brady, Carlos Condit, Claudio Silva. If you're just like looking at these names, it's kind of crazy because it's like, oh, Santiago Ponzinibbio. Like, what are we talking about, man? It's just kind of crazy to me because if Ramiz Brahimaj does get the blessing, the grace of saying, like, all right, you're up, you get a Court McGee, that does go to show how much the UFC respects the talent that is a Ramiz Brahimaj. Fighting out of Fortis MMA as well. So you're going to have, what's homeboy's name? Saeed? What's the last name, brother, on the coach? Saeed? Coach Saeed. Either way, you guys know who I'm talking about, hailing out of Fortis MMA. He's the head coach over there. So you also have that in your corner. It's going to be a fun fight. Factory X Muay Thai for Court McGee, Fortis MMA for Brahimaj. It's going to be such a fun fight. 2-3 is Court McGee in his last 5. 3-2 is Brahimaj, and I will say he did have 3 bouts in the LFA in his last 5 fights, so it's something to keep an eye on. Either way, if you like smashing, if you like crushing, if you like all of that, tune into this sleeper, folks, because that's what this is about. So that is the sleeper, and listen, there's not a lot of prelim stuff that we go on, but trust me, out of the fights that we got, all of them are going to be good. I'll just put that out there. Now, let's talk about a little bit of main card stuff.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
And obviously, before we break it down, folks, you know I got to say it. Drop a like, subscribe, share the show with your friends. We're at about 324 subscribers, man. We love to see it. Let's keep it moving on up. It's 2022. We want to get to 600, 700 subscribers by the end of the year. Do a little bit of what we did this last year plus a little bit more. Why not? All right, AJ, let's talk about it. Senior Perfecto, Bill Algeo is number 69 in the featherweight division, and he's facing off against a killer who actually he does not hold a worldwide ranking next to his name, but his name is Joanderson Brito, and he is a minus 125 favorite with a plus 105 comeback for Bill Algeo, Senor Perfecto. AJ, man, listen, this is going to be a matchup of a flow fighter versus a dude who is willing to do whatever it takes to take you down. He's one of the most explosive takedown artists that I have seen in quite some time. And listen, we just got to see if he can put it together in the UFC, because his last bout was a dominant performance in the Dana White Contender Series that ended a little controversially, though, right? So if you watched the Dana White Contender Series fight, you saw he was smashing, he was winning the entire fight. It was not even close, right? But a couple eye pokes, and next thing you know, his opponent can't fight. However, it was so late in the fight they ruled it a technical decision in favor of Brito. It was not a no contest. He got the win, and he gets the UFC contract. So here we go. But let's talk about it, man. Over under, because we got to talk about that stuff and all of that good stuff, right? Over and under is 2.5 rounds, pretty much for all of these main card bouts that we have on our hands today. And I can see this going over, I can see this going the distance, right? Very clearly. Is there any world in this fight where you see either of these fighters getting a finish? Because neither of these fighters are very finish-oriented necessarily. I mean, obviously, Brito is. He has 10 finishes, 5 knockouts, 5 submissions. But I'm talking about in the span of, I'm going to come in there, I'm just going to come start you, I'm going to come submit you off the bat. It's going to be a little harder to do than it is to just say, especially when you got Bill Algeo over there trying to flow on you. So what do you think, brother? What do you think about this matchup?
I think if anybody's gonna get the early knockout, the paper is leaning a little bit more towards the Brito.
Yeah.
But you got Mr. Perfecto over there, man, slanging, like you said, flowing on you. That's gonna be very, very hard to get things going.
All right, AJ over there coughing it up again, folks. Let me take it over.
COVID, brother.
It's all right. It's all right. So, listen, man, this is going to be a very fun matchup. Ultimately, Bill Algeo, Joanderson Brito. This question is, can Brito get Algeo to the ground and keep him there? And listen, my money says yes. And I think that Algeo, even though he has fought a Ricardo Ramos in his last fight, a Spike Carlisle, a Ricardo Lamas, he fought all of those dudes all in his last 3 fights. It's just a tough task when you got a dude who isn't going to allow you to flow. And this is kind of my theory on the fight overall. So when you have a flow fighter like Bill Algeo, all you want to do is be able to hands low, move. You want to be able to kind of time your opponent, get those openings, let them strike so you can counter strike, right? But when you're a Joanderson Brito, if you're just doing the explosiveness that he's normally accustomed to, you're not allowing the flow fighter to flow. You're taking them out of their rhythm. And that's what's most important to them, is their rhythm, is their flow. So how does Bill Algeo maintain his flow against a Joanderson Brito? Algeo has the UFC experience. He said in his pre-fight presser that ultimately he hasn't lost these fights, but he just hasn't won them. And obviously, if you didn't win, you lost, you know what I mean? But I get the metaphor of saying, I just need to piece a couple things together and I could have won the fights. I just, man, it's a tough task. I don't even want to rule anybody out, but the way that Brito just smashes people and makes me feel like it's going to be a tougher task than, what one may assume. So what do you think?
Going back to your first question about how does Algeo kind of stay in that flow? I think with a snappy front kick, the second Joanderson comes in for that double leg.
Sure.
You light one up right up the front, you kind of hurt the guy, set him on his heels again, and now he's thinking. Oh, okay, if I come in too hot, he's gonna see that coming. He's gonna have something for me. I need to plan it out a little bit. And while he's sitting there thinking and planning, that's when you can kind of get in that flow state, kind of keep things going. But man, that's hard against a Brito. This dude is explosive, strong, super aggressive, fighting out to shoot the box. So this dude's a scrapper. He was talking about in his Dana White Contender Series show how he was he's a street fighter, bro. Back down in South America, that's just how they get down in Brazil, bro. They just like to swing, and that's what makes him happy. So fighting a guy, I have a buddy we call Worm, man. If you ever get in a fight with this guy, it's because he likes to. He gave me this scar just because we like to scrap, and that's just how it goes, man. And if you fighting a guy like that, it's hard because that's just what he knows. There's nothing else besides go forward. So even if you catch him with a front kick to the face, he's still going to be thinking forward motion, forward attack. It's a very hard task for Bill Algeo going forward. But this dude, he's if he puts the right things together and finds those little bit of tweaks that he's talking about, this dude has the chance, or the potential, to be a champion, man. He fights a lot like a young Stephen Thompson before Stephen Thompson kind of started getting figured out. He has the length. He has that kind of karate style background. Very, very flowy, very confident too. If he doesn't lose his confidence in this fight and he's able to kind of pin Brito back on the heels a little bit and then take over the alpha of the fight, I think it's going to be a little bit more leaning towards Algeo. Honestly, when I was writing this and breaking things down, I was expecting Algeo to be not the underdog, the top dog. I was expecting Brito to be the underdog, and seeing it the other way, where Brito's the favorite, a little shocking, but it makes sense because he's so aggressive. And when you have that aggressive guy fighting a guy who's looking to counter strike and be on his heels, it's like rock, paper, scissors. It's going to go a lot of the times the same way. But Algeo has a couple different tools in his tool belt to get things going.
Yeah.
That's the way at least I see it playing out. Who do you think is going to be taking full advantage of that aggression, Derick?
Well, I think Algeo definitely has the tools in his tool belt to be able to use the aggression of Brito against him. But I think it has to be defensive, because if you look at just Algeo's game overall, like I said, the flow counter striker, hands low. He's not the dude who's walking his opponent down. Oftentimes, he's on the back foot. He's using his opponent's momentum against him. And the one thing that he is really good at, he's a really good grappler. So there's a difference, though, between being a good grappler and a good wrestler. I don't think Algeo's wrestling is that great. I think his wrestling is okay, but his grappling is where his bread and butter is. I mean, he does have 6 submissions to his name. So if Brito gets in, shoots in for a blast double, and he can just lock up that guillotine real quick, man, that might be his best chance. I think that grappling off of his back is going to have to be one of his best maneuvers to try to reverse position, try to get sweeps, try to get that top position, and then make it a little more competitive than a Brito just straight up double-legging you, getting into half guard, and holding you down for 3 rounds, because if he does that, he's just going to win on points. So I think that that's going to be the best chance for Algeo. Use the aggression of Brito, counter-strike, foot in the tire, right? Move in circles, and then ultimately grapple off of your back, get some sweeps, get some reversals, and try to maintain the dominant position. Easier said than done. I just think the explosiveness of Brito reminds me a little bit, believe it or not, of a smaller version of a Yoel Romero. Like, that's how explosive the man is. Like, so it is his UFC debut, and that means that the nerves can be there. The more experienced fighter of Bill Algeo could take advantage of it, but it's time to put our picks, AJ, and I'm going to go first, and I just say Joanderson Brito gets the job done via unanimous decision. I think Bill Algeo is going to be too tough for him to be able to finish, but I do think he's going to be able to hold him down for the majority of the fight and win on points, and I do think clearly it's going to go over 2.5 rounds. So that is my pick for the first bout. What do you think, dog?
Yeah, you compared him to a younger, smaller Yoel Romero. I compared Brito to a bigger Davison Figueiredo, man. Very much a bully, very aggressive in there, very nice hands too, but can also get it done on the ground, man. And I'm with you, Derick. I'm going Brito by decision. I think it's just the way it's how it's going to go. Both these dudes have gas tanks, and I don't think either of them are going to finish each other. So I think this one's going to a decision. I'm leaning towards Joanderson Brito.
Okay, right on, man. So we'll move on from that one, but that will be a fun fight. Now, this is going to be a really fun fight. This was your sleeper, AJ, man. And we have to say, first off, one of these dudes has one of the best nicknames in the game, man. Dakota Harry Bush. Come on, brother. What are we talking about? That is a great nickname. You love to see it. But he is ranked number 185 in the lightweight division. So clearly we have 2 prospect fighters on our hands here. And Dakota Bush is a plus 160 underdog with a minus 190 comeback for the non-ranked, no worldwide ranking, but his name is Viacheslav Borishev, right? And I apologize if I butchered the name, but he's better known as Slava Claus. And the reason why is because he puts your ass to sleep, does his little Russian dance and whatnot. Those the Santa Claus hat on, man. That is Slava Claus. The man is a gangster. He is a killer. And I'll tell you, he has grit and determination written all over him because, listen, if you watched he had a fight that was, let me pull it up right here. It was against Kennedy St. Louis, and this was in Titan FC, man. And if you watched that fight, you would know. And this is before Dana White Contender Series, where he had a very dominant performance. But man, this is a dude who is putting it on his opponent, Kennedy St. Louis, right? He's, he doing it. Everyone thinks, oh, he's about to get the finish. He's lining him up. He's ready for that finish shot. Kennedy St. Louis hits him with the counter shot, rocks him, has him on Queer Street, takes his back, has a locked-in rear naked choke, then reverses the position, mounted, smashing his face in, and Borishev got saved by the bell on that one. I honestly think if the fight lasts another 30 seconds, Borishev would have got finished. But what does he do? He comes back with that resiliency, says it's a new round, aka the score is 0-0. Let's get back out there. Let's put it on him. And then he ultimately got the finish, man. Finished with strikes. He was digging shovel shots to the body. It was a beautiful thing to watch, man. Kennedy St. Louis is a very, very good fighter. So seeing that made me say, okay, this wasn't even the Dana White Contender Series, brother, because he goes on to Dana White Contender Series and knocks out his opponent with a left hook. However, Dakota Bush, man, he is no slouch. And in his UFC debut, he fought, he fought Austin Thud Hubbard. That is no easy task whatsoever. So you have to give the man some credit for fighting such a skilled opponent in his UFC debut. And I do think nerves got the best of him on that one because he came out hot. He came out striking, hot, volume, power, tapered off a little bit as the fight went on, and then he got out-grappled by Austin Hubbard, even though he is a good grappler himself. So the question becomes this, AJ. Borishev clearly has the hype. He is the minus 190 favorite in this matchup. Really, really good striker, but he has one kryptonite. And it's not the worst kryptonite, but I just think he's not the greatest fighter when you smash him and you put him on his back. You know what I mean? And I think Dakota Bush can definitely take advantage of that. He's a man who has 4 submission victories. I mean, Borshev's more of a striker. You know what I mean? He's got that snapping jab with the solid lateral movement, the fluid combos with the nasty liver shots, whether it's a body kick, whether it's a shovel shot, it does not matter. But grappling is a little bit of the weakness. He wants to keep the fight on the feet. Dakota Bush, he'll manage some distance. He wants to keep the fight on the feet too, but I do think he has a slight advantage in the grappling. So what do you think, man? Do you think Dakota Bush looks to take advantage and not try to strike with Borshev, or say, hey, man, I'm a good striker too. Let's get after it. What do you think?
I think if Bush is smart, man, he doesn't want that strike in. If you're watching any of Borshev's fights, this dude has absolute hands. Yeah. Even in his last fight, he who's the fighter he fought in his last one? Or not?
It was Chris Duncan.
Duncan, yes, dude, and he almost had him out in the first with like solid 4 or 5 different body shots, man. Yeah. Put it absolutely to him. Even Paul Felder was calling for the replay, but they wouldn't give it to him because it was a thing of beauty, man. A 5-piece combo right to the breadbasket, hurts like none other, and Duncan was feeling it, man. And honestly, I agree with you in the fact what you were saying before about how Borshev is worse on the back, you know, worse fighting when he's in the defensive mode. Yeah. But the thing about him, it might not be like most advantageous for him to be fighting that way, but mentally he gets stronger and stronger the more he gets down. You cannot put this dude in a hole and expect him just to sit there and start wallowing in a pit of his own shame. Yeah. This dude is gonna be fighting for life, literally until the end. He claims he has over 200 amateur fights or fights all throughout his entire life, and he fights like it, man. He gets a little bit down and he starts to come back. You see him get a little bit more pissed off and a little bit more aggressive and just building and building and building. And once he's built up so much, it's hard to get back on top of that ball, man. Borshev, I really, really like this dude, especially for how hard he hits. He's a long time. I forget what he had his kickboxing belt at, but he's been a long time champ for a while. He's coming into the UFC to show he's got hands. But if Bush is smart, he's going to put him on his butt. He's going to keep him there. He's going to keep the ground and pound going, because Bush, he did get out wrestled by Austin Hubbard in his last fight, but he's no slouch. I think he just emptied the gas tank a little too early, and now he's going to come back with that in mind and think, I'm going to do that. I'm going to drown this newbie just like I got drowned in the Austin Hubbard fight, because that was a big fight for Bush going forward, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I just want to ask about kicks. Who has better kicks? Both of these dudes, that's one of their main weapons is kicks, right? Dakota Bush, he uses his kicks oftentimes to manage distance, whether it's a leg kick, whether it's a teep, whatever. Borishev, though, man, what's crazy is he'll throw combos with the hands and then just throw a head kick out of nowhere, like right up close next to you. Like, he doesn't need space. He's got that much dexterity in his hips and flexibility and all that, right? So who has the better kicks, Dakota Bush or Borishev?
It's hard because it's two different kinds of kicks.
Yeah,
I like the way you're phrasing it out, because Bush definitely does. He'll throw those leg kicks. He'll throw the teep kicks. He'll just literally try to keep you pitter patter and then throw a big one. Yeah. In his last fight against Hubbard, they were literally going back to back, just liver kick, back and forth. So he has the power to do it. And Borishev has that kind of Justin Gaethje dexterity where he'll be in the pocket, in punching range, and then crack down a kick instead of to the leg. He's throwing it at your head. It's insane. I'd kind of give it a little bit more towards Borishev just because of his acumen with the kickboxing and everything. But, I mean, Dakota Bush is no slouch in the kicks at all.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing to take away from this matchup in its totality is that even though Borishev is the taller fighter, he has a lesser reach. Dakota Bush has 73-inch reach to a 69-inch reach for Borishev. So it's just going to be interesting, because I honestly think that because Borishev, don't get me wrong, he can get up. It's not like if he gets put on his back, he's just stuck there, right? So unless Bush says, I'm just going to smother you for the whole fight, that's the game plan, I think this is going to be a really fun kickboxing match between these two. I do think Borishev has the advantage in the striking, but Dakota Bush is a little more well-rounded. You know, we'll see what happens, though, man, because at the end of the day, I don't want to sleep on Borishev. This dude is a absolute killer. He has finished 4 of his 5 wins, but Dakota Bush, he's just a little more experienced. He has 11 total fights in MMA, right? We're not talking about kickboxing. We're not talking about any of that stuff. We're talking about being in that cage, mixed martial arts rules, and I liked his ability to try to kind of grapple with Austin Hubbard, even though he got controlled in that fight. It showed promise. So with that being said, let's talk about it, brother. The over and under is 2.5 rounds, and give me your pick on this one. Are you going Borishev or are you going Dakota Bush?
Ooh, 2.5 rounds. Oh, man, I'm actually going to take the under. Ooh. I'm going Borishev, and I'm going KO round 2. I think he's going to get it done. He's got hands. He's fighting at a team alpha male, so they've been working on the takedowns. They've been working on his style. What I like about this dude, too, they were talking about it on the Dana White Contender Series. He just showed up to alpha male. Yeah. And then told all the coaches, told Uriah Faber, hey, I'm going to be in the UFC. Train me. Let's go. That's dedication. That's heart, man. That's grit. That's what I love to see. I'm rocking with Slava Claus, even though Christmas is over. I'm going Borishev KO round 2. What about you, Derick?
All right, brother. Well, that's a bold pick because Dakota Bush has never been finished. And I do think Dakota Bush is a tough fighter. I think that he belongs in the UFC. And I don't necessarily think that Borishev is going to be able to get a finish unless something very impressive happens. So I'm going to take the over on this one. I'm going to go decision, but I still am going to rock in favor of Borishev because even if Dakota Bush is able to control him a little bit, I think Borishev has some of the flashier striking, a little more volume, and when he hits, man, he hits you with those 4 or 5 punch combos, man, digging to the body, digging up top, whatever it is, it pops off the page, so if you're a judge and you're seeing Borishev strike, you're like, oh my God, you get a little enamored with it. Dakota Bush, he's a little more of a gritty fighter, so we'll see what happens, but I think going Borishev at minus 190 is a pretty smart pick on this one. So let's move on to the next one. All right, brother. So this is a rematch. We got a rematch on our hands. And you know what? I was a little confused as to why this happened. And the only reason that I can think of right now why this fight is happening is because the women's flyweight division, with it being headlined by Valentina Shevchenko being such a dominant force at the top, they're playing just a roulette of like, all right, let's just shuffle the deck and fight because who else am I going to fight? If you're Katlyn Chookagian, you're doing whatever you can to fight Valentina Shevchenko again in another title shot. Well, Jennifer Maia, she had a more recent title shot at Valentina than Chookagian has. So I guess it kind of makes sense. But I will say, in their first fight, listen, Jennifer Maia, she missed weight. Chookagian got an easy win, unanimous decision. It was a striking contest. And I'm curious to know, why do you think Katlyn Chookagian at minus 170 is a little too low in terms of odds with the plus 145 comeback for Maia? Like, if she got the job done so definitively in the first fight, and Maia missed weight in that fight, what exactly has changed so much in the last 5 bouts or so between the two to where, people think Jennifer Maia has a real deal chance at just getting the job done? Like, what exactly is so different about this matchup right now with these two fighters?
I think it's the fact that Jennifer Maia had that one round against Valentina Shevchenko where everybody thought that she was able to hold her down, and it was the queen losing her throne, before we actually saw that happen. Yeah. I think that's really the crux of why she's not a bigger favorite, because I agree. One of the notes I have here is that if neither fighter change, it's literally going to be the exact same fight. Yeah. Or if both of them got better at what they're good at, it's going to be the exact same fight. I think we're just shuffling the deck and letting, chances for other fighters to kind of come back. And it's what you have to do in the women's division because it's so light. But really, I mean, Jennifer Maia, if she's able to take Chookagian down, we saw Chookagian get held down by, was it Cynthia Calvillo? I forget. But either way, she's a lot better in the clinch and in the stand-up than she is on the ground, Katlyn Chookagian anyway. Where Jennifer Maia is a lot better on the ground. If she's able to take her down, then it'll be a little bit more interesting of a fight, at least in my eyes. If we're able to see something a little different, it's not just a striking contest, then I'm leaning a little bit more towards Maia in this one. But either way, I'm with you. I don't really see exactly why this is going down if stakes are on the table.
So let's just take a look at Katlyn Chookagian and her last couple of fights. So you'll see that she's been taken down by Viviane Araujo, right? One takedown. She got taken down by Calvillo, one takedown. And she won both of those fights, right? Jessica Andrade took her down twice, and that ended up finishing her. So that might be what you're referring to. She was able to dominate Antonina Shevchenko, but got dominated by Valentina Shevchenko. She gets kind of taken down in majority of her fights. And even again in the Jennifer Maia fight, Jennifer Maia wasn't able to register the takedown until round 3. It was a little too late at that point, where Chookagian already pretty much got the job done on the points. But it did show that when Jennifer Maia was able to get the takedown, I mean, it was pretty strong in that takedown, being able to hold Chookagian down. So I think that is the must happen situation if you're Jennifer Maia and if you want to win this fight, because the reach and the height disparities are still the same. 5'4" to 5'9". Chookagian got a 5-inch height advantage, and we're talking about reach, 68 inches to 64, 4-inch reach advantage for Katlyn Chookagian. If she can just use her long jab, keep the fight at distance, I agree with you. Rinse, wash, repeat. I don't see what's different about this. However, in a universe where Jennifer Maia, from the opening bell, gets Chookagian, puts her on her butt, and that's the focus, that's the game plan, do you think Katlyn Chookagian can get up from Jennifer Maia? because she is an incredible grappler, dude. Incredible. She has 5 submissions in her 19 career wins. She only has 9 finishes, but this is not anything new for the flyweight division. And lastly, before, let me just give the last caveat. Katlyn Chookagian, if she wins this fight, she becomes the first fighter in the UFC's women's division to have 10 career wins in the octagon without a finish. They will all be decision victories. So I just wanted to put that out there. But what do you think? Do you think that she'll be able to get up from Jennifer Maia?
I think so, man. I think, and I think it was the Jessica Andrade fight I was talking about, where she was continuously taken down. Anytime you hear Katlyn Chookagian, you know she's a striker, but she has been getting way better on the ground and actually standing things up. We saw in the Algeo fight that she was taken down once, but was able to keep things going after that. Man, stay on her feet. I think Katlyn Chookagian's getting way better at that aspect of the ground game, and if she can bring that going into this fight and then forward, we're going to see better things coming from Chookagian.
Yeah. I hear you, brother, on that one, man. She's number 2 in the division right now. So it's like literally, I want to ask you seriously, do you think is Valentina, Katlyn Chookagian, and then the rest? Like, is that how you view the division? Or do you view it as in like, okay, there's a lot of competitors in there? Because when I pull up the rankings right now, let me just pull it up real fast just so we can kind of get a little bit of a visual. So when I pull up the rankings and we're looking at the women's flyweight division. Okay, so here we are. So let me pull this down for a second. Okay, you got Valentina Shevchenko, Jessica Andrade. So I guess I kind of forgot about Jessica Andrade. Apologies for that. Shout out to you, Jessica. But Katlyn Chookagian, you got Lauren Murphy, who's apparently about to be fighting Miesha Tate for whatever reason in the flyweight division. I don't know how she gets number 3 just off the bat. Jennifer Maia, Taila Santos, who is the dark horse in the division, who I definitely think will be one of the next to challenge Valentina for the championship. Viviane Araujo, Joanne Wood, Andrea Lee. So basically, just take a look at the list. Do you think that Katlyn Chookagian and Jessica Andrade, I guess, the 1 and 2, and then it's the rest of the division? Or do you think there's some like real contenders in here still?
No, I do see a big drop off, maybe after top 5. Because you do have, Jennifer Maia is amazing. So is Lauren Murphy. Jessica Andrade is an absolute beast in there. And I think like you said, the dark horse is really Taila Santos. Yeah. And then after that, it kind of really drops off with a lot of the fighters that have either had up and down in their fights, or they just haven't really been too active as of late. Luckily, we're starting to see a lot more of these fights kind of happening. But if we get, let's say that Taila Santos jumps up to number 3, and it's our number 4, and then you have Andrade, Chookagian, Santos, and then a real big drop off after that. I mean, we'll start to see as more things unfold, but really the disparity of talent is definitely there.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. So I guess to kind of put this, hold on, let me get myself back. There we go. To kind of put ourselves in a situation where we can contextualize this stuff and we can kind of get an understanding about what Jessica Maia needs to do in this fight. When you look at her fight against Jessica Ai, right, that was kind of a striking contest. When you think about the coin slot on Jessica Ai's forehead, you would remember it as, Jennifer Maia was putting it on her. It was actually a headbutt. So it's like, okay, that's actually not as impressive as I thought, even though she was still piecing her up on the feet. I mean, Jennifer Maia got outstruck 98 to 100, but she still did some damage on the feet, had Jessica Ai bloodied up. Jennifer Maia has registered 1 takedown, 2 takedowns in her last 5 fights, man. So it's like, unless she has real urgency in this, unless she has real deal urgency to be like, okay, I need to get the takedown, I need to make this happen with legitimate urgency, like I said, I just think it's kind of going to be Valentina Shevchenko, Katlyn Chookagian, rinse, wash, repeat, kind of doing the thing again. So with that being said, the over and under is 2.5 rounds. Do you think there's going over or under, and who are you picking, brother?
Yeah, man, I'm going with the over on this one. I think just it's going to be, these fighters know each other so much that it's hard to do. Whether if it's Katlyn Chookagian getting in her flow and then we see a decision, or it's a very up and down washing machine kind of fight with Jennifer Maia doing better. Because I like Jennifer Maia's style, man. She has that kind of that bouncy, that keeps the high guard bouncing in and out, kind of like a young little Mike Tyson. She has the power to get it done too. But with the fighters knowing each other so well, it's going to be a long fight, I think. And I'm going Katlyn Chookagian by decision.
Yeah.
Just how I see it going down. What about you, Derick?
Well, in the striking, I think that Jennifer Maia has definitely improved since these two fighters' first original bout. But the one difference I see is that Jennifer Maia, she has some good work in the clinch. But you know who has better work in the clinch? Katlyn Chookagian, right? You know, she's taller, longer knees. You know, body work is going to be a little bit more there for Katlyn Chookagian. And it was actually that Jessica Andrade fight, wasn't it, where she got hit with the liver shot and then turned away, and was that right? So it's like, I mean, that's a little something that people could still try to take advantage advantage of, work that liver of Katlyn Chookagian, but I think that her footwork is too good. She's either in or out. She's not stuck in the pocket right there, willing to trade and get hit like that. So I'm going Katlyn Chookagian. I'm going a decision win over here. I'm taking the over. Minus 170, man. I honestly think that this should be closer to a minus 250, minus 300 for Katlyn Chookagian, just because this is all hinging on, can Jennifer Maia hold her down for 3 rounds, basically, in my opinion. So, with that being said, before we move on to the next matchup, folks, once again, I just want to remind you, if you're looking for some merch, I'm not sporting it right now, but I will be in the next episode most likely. So the point here is that if you want to go check out our online shop, go to BloodyWaterPodcast.com, go to the menu, hit the merchandise tab, and then you'll be able to get hoodies, like AJ said earlier, crop tops, socks, whatever the case it may be. Use code BWP10 for 10% off all purchases at checkout for our online storefront. I just wanted to remind you. And give us a follow on social media. Bloody Water Podcast on Instagram, Bloody Water Pod on Twitter. The hub, though, BloodyWaterPodcast.com. That's where you can listen to it for free, find all the YouTube videos, find everything you need. Enough said. We'll move on to the next one. All right, AJ. This right here, brother, this could be a co-main event in and of itself. Now, they chose a heavyweight bout for the co-main event, but that's neither here nor there. We got Raw Dog, number 5 ranked Brandon Royval as a minus 170 favorite with a plus 145 comeback for number 7, Rogerio Bontrorin in the men's flyweight division. Now, AJ, this is going to be a really fun fight because both of these dudes are almost clones of each other, except they're just a little bit different, right? Now, Brandon Royval, BJJ black belt, Bontrorin, BJJ black belt. Both of these dudes can knock each other out. Both of these dudes have wicked submissions, wicked scrambles, all of that. But one of the big differences is when you look at Royval and you look at his frame, he's 5'7", Bontrorin is 5'5", 67-inch reach for Bontrorin, 68-inch reach for Royval. But when you look at the frames, Bontrorin is small, but he's thick. He's wide. He's jacked. Royval, he's kind of tall and lanky, you know what I mean? Which is interesting because he's not that much taller, but he doesn't have that same muscle mass that Bontrorin does. So I wanted to ask you off of the bat here. Brandon Royval, even though we know how good of a prospect that he is, or I shouldn't say prospect, I should say a contender. We know how good of a contender he is. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He is 2-2 in the UFC, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak currently. Now, those 2 losses were to the current champion, Brandon Moreno, and that one was fluky because his shoulder popped out. So it's like, you lost on a technicality, kind of, even though a loss is a loss. But then the other one was his most recent outing, which is against Alexandre Pantoja, second-round submission loss that he talked about in his pre-fight presser, that he might have rushed back from his shoulder injury just a little too early, just a smidge. The question I wanted to ask you off the bat, AJ, is that an excuse? Or do you think that he's taken the loss on the chin like a man and learned from it? That's the big question here. What do you think?
Man, it's hard because an excuse and a reason are two. They're very similar, but there's a big distinction. You know, if it's a reason, he's learned from it and he says, you know, yeah, I might have came back a little too early, but this is how I could fix it now. Whereas if he's just making excuses and not really offering up an answer to it, then, you know, it's a little bit of an excuse. I mean, me personally, what I think when I hear it is, yeah, you might have rushed back a little too early. Unless you got the win, then you were saying it was perfect timing. Yeah. So it's a little iffy, you know, whichever way you want to phrase it. I do think that with the shoulder, it's something weird, man. That thing's a very mobile joint. You know, you got to give that one time to relax. But you know, Raw Dog, he's an amazing fighter coming out, man, and he can easily get things done. But playing the submission game against Rogerio Bontrorin is going to be interesting to see how they get things done. Because you're right, man. Rogerio is an absolute pit bull. This dude is short and thick, like literally just thick, bro. This dude is massive, strong. It's going to be a very interesting fight to see how this actually unfolds. Because if this is a grappling game, I'm not really sure who I lean towards with the advantage. On paper, I see Rogerio Bontrorin. Oh, this is a savage on the ground. But then Brandon Royval is also very amazing, but he was just tapped out by Pantoja. But even to that, man, having those 2 losses to Pantoja and then Moreno, it's not really that detrimental. Do you take away a lot from Brandon Moreno with those 2 losses, Derick?
Well, from Brandon Royval, no, I don't take too much away from him just because of the injury situation and because of how close. I mean, the Brandon Moreno fight, that was scrambles. We don't know who was going to win that fight. There is absolutely no definitive way we could look at that and say, oh, no, Moreno was definitely going to win. He had a little bit of an edge going on, but that's not the point. If you look at his win against Tim Elliott, how impressive was that, man? Second round submission. If you look at his fight against Kattar, France, the back and the forth, you know what I mean? He gets dropped by Kattar, France, comes back with a spinning back elbow, drops Kattar. So it was crazy, right? And he takes risks, and that's a part of the game plan for him. He says he's got to take those risks. That's what got him to the dance. That's what got him there to the position that he's in. So I think that Royval is going to take a few more risks than maybe Bontrorin is willing to do. But that in there lies the problem, AJ. One thing that I've seen from Brandon Royval that I don't like, but I like at the same time, is in those risks, he's willing to trade. And I don't know if Bontrorin is the dude you want to trade against. Just because Bontrorin, even though he only has 3 knockouts, this dude is powerful, dude. Like, all it takes is one right hand from the dude to really drop you, put you in a bad spot. Then he can use his jiu-jitsu, which is, he has 11 submission wins. He can then use that jiu-jitsu to then be able to try to, nullify his opponent. But Brandon Royval, I thought it was interesting in the pre-fight presser, he did note, he says that he thinks his jiu-jitsu is just simply better than Bontorin's, and he's going to be able to take advantage of some of the mistakes that Bontorin is going to make. So, with that being said, man, my question is that Bontorin being the bulldog that he is he walking down Royval, or is Royval walking down Bontorin? Because both of these dudes literally walk forward. Only one can lead the dance, though. So what do you think?
Man, that's I've been pondering this same thing. I think it's going to be Bontorin that starts off anyway, that kind of gets things going. And he's a little bit more stacked, and not just like physically wise, because physicality wise he is, but just mentally he's also a lot more of the aggressor, a lot more of that guy where you have the flashy Brandon Royval. He's down to take that step back just for that check left hook to come in. That's his kind of style, man. He's down to push a little bit, just to pull a little bit more and then get the one on you. So I see Bontorin leading the dance to start things off. But if either one of these fighters connects with that power, then we're going to start to really see the tides turn and really start to see how they act when the chips are down. Because Brandon Royval, we've seen him handle himself, do very well when the chips are down. Obviously, without injury and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. But going back to that Kattar France fight, that shit was amazing, bro. When you're getting dropped like that and coming right back and have the wherewithal to see your target, spin, hit it with an elbow. Yeah, this dude is insane, man. So don't get me wrong. If Royval is on the back foot, then he can easily still transfer back and take advantage and get Bontorin walking backwards as well. I just think Bontorin's going to start off on the front foot. What about you, Derick?
It's hard for me just because I think that Royval has what it takes to be able to walk down Bontorin. And Bontorin is a little less of a volume striker, so I could see him just kind of waiting for the big shot. You know what I mean? Where Brandon Royval, he's all volume, all feints, all pressure. He's constantly moving, constantly in your face. And I don't want to say this because I don't know if it's true, man, but Royval might have the cardio edge on Bontorin in this, so he might be able to be more active and pull that off. So it's literally the feint-heavy offense versus the pit bull of Bontorin. It's the wicked jiu-jitsu and the incredible scrambles versus the power takedowns and the power jiu-jitsu of Bontorin. Heavy hands, dangerous in the clinch, is Bontorin, who has an extensive kickboxing background, but Brandon Royval trains at Factory X Muay Thai, and he has attacks from all angles, brother. I don't care if it's an elbow, I don't care if it's a whatever, you know what I mean? He's dropping you knees, elbows, punches. He's kind of got that Muay Thai style a little bit, and I just want to talk stats before we give our picks. Very similar are these fighters on paper, right? 3.44 significant strikes landed per minute at a 41% clip, 2.82 significant strikes landed per minute at a 52% clip for Bontorin. So first one was Royval, second was Bontorin. 46% striking defense for Royval, 43 for Bontorin. 1.16 takedowns per 15 minutes for Royval, 1.68 takedowns per minute for Bontorin. 52% takedown defense for Royval, 51% for Bontorin. 1.7 submission attempts per fight, right? 1.2 for Bontorin. So on paper, it's like right there, brother. And folks, just because when I talk it out, I can totally understand how you could look at that and be like, all right, man, this is you're saying words. What does this mean? So on paper, literally, when you pull it out, you just look at these dudes. Everything is damn near the same. Takedown accuracy is obviously better for Brandon Royval, but aside from that, everything is basically the same, man. It's interesting. Brandon Royval is a southpaw and all that good stuff, but man, I just think that this is one of those where we can make a guess on this, we can make our prediction, but honestly, you're not going to know until fight night comes because these are two incredible fighters, and the big caveat here is that the winner of this fight may potentially set themselves up to be able to fight the champion, not after this trilogy for Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. Someone else needs to fight. Kattar France is going to be fighting Askar Askarov, so maybe it's like after the winner of that, these guys get it. I don't know. Do you think that I'm kind of like, that's kind of the right assumption to make, that this isn't necessarily the next title shot, but the next title shot after the next title shot is the winner of this fight? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I agree, Derek. I think these boys are playing chess right here, trying to set up matches for the not like you said, not the next one, but the one after that. Because I do think there's a couple fighters. Pantoja deserves a shot as well, man. This
Yeah.
dude, he's actually beaten Moreno, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's some wiggle room to get going in this top 6, top 7 match they have getting fourth. But both of these dudes can easily be fighting for the championship within the next 2 to 3 fights, possibly.
Quick prediction. Do you think that the flyweight championship changes hands more than 2 times this year?
More than 2 times. Ooh, I'm gonna go no.
So you think under 2 times?
I'm thinking under 2 times, 2 at the most. But yeah, I'm going under. What about you?
It's interesting because it's like, dude, think about it. Like, let's say Davison Figueiredo somehow gets the win on Moreno, you know what I mean? And then you got the Askar Askarov, and then you got Kai Kara-France, then you got these guys, then you got Pantoja. It's just like, I can see how it could change hands so many times, you know what I mean? But I would not be surprised if one person was just so dominant that they locked it down. Honestly, and Brandon Moreno came out of nowhere, in my opinion. I knew he was good, but I thought Figgy had that title locked down. Like, he was just that bully, that menace in the division. So it'll be interesting because you're right. Pantoja has a win over Moreno, and he has a win over Royval, and wins over plenty of other people. So it'll be interesting. But, with that being said, I think that it's time to give our picks. Well, I almost dropped down the graphic without even doing that, brother. Give me your pick. Who do you got? Over and under is 2.5 rounds. Who do you have in this fight, brother?
Woo, I'm going with the under again, Derek, but just by short, man. I'm going KO round 2, and I'm rolling with Raw Dog on this one, man. I think he's going to get one back. I think it's finally his time. He's dropped those last 2. One, somewhat fluky. He was losing that fight, though, to be completely honest. As well as the next one, yeah, he got handled over there by what's called Pantoja. So I'm rolling with Raw Dog. I think he's going to be able to get it done. I think the smooth, flowing, trickster kind of jiu-jitsu style as well as striking is going to be a little bit better than that pit bull, full force, full strength method. At least that's what we've seen in the past, and that's why I'm rolling with it this time. I got Raw Dog KO round 2. What about you, Derek?
So you know what? I've been really torn on this one, not knowing if I should go over and under. I don't know if I'm going to see a finish in this one just because the game plan that I see from Bontrorin doesn't really feel like it's going to be finish-oriented. I don't think Royval is going to even allow himself to be put in a position to get choked out again because of how much pride he takes in his jiu-jitsu. But I am going with a little bit of the contrarian pick this time around. I'm actually picking Rogerio Bontrorin in this fight. And the reason why is because Brandon Royval against Pantoja, I felt like he struggled a little bit with that power differential, and not power in terms of punching power in terms of literally strength of Pantoja. Like I said, Royval is just a little lanky, you know what I mean? I'm such a big fan of him. I think he's such a talented fighter. I just think he needs to put on a little bit of muscle mass to be able to compete with some of these stronger dudes, because I don't care what you say, even in jiu-jitsu, even though it's the gentle art, strength and size matter. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? If you're wrestling a dude who's, same weight class as you, but they're just jacked, got that strength on you, they're going to have a little more power to be able to suplex you or do whatever the case may be. So I just think that Bontrorin is going to be able to use that bulldog power approach to nullify some of the scrambles and incredible movement of Royval. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go decision on this one for Rogerio Bontrorin. And don't get me wrong, man. This is in no way a knock towards Brandon Royval because I think he is so talented. I just think this is one of those trap game type matchups where people are saying, like, to me, plus 145 for Bontrorin seems a little extreme. Like, you know what I mean? A dude, Royval's coming off 2 losses. Bontrorin is coming off of a loss to Kai Kara-France where that was just that stun knockout. He kind of called the fight himself, and then he gets the win against Matt Schnell. I don't know, man. So I go Bontrorin. I'm going over. But last question before we move on. Do you think that plus 145 is a little too high, or do you think the odds are right on this one?
No, I think it's a little too high. I think it should have been a lot closer than that, especially looking on paper. These dudes are very, very similar. I honestly was betting this was going to be like 110s even across the board. Yeah. I had a real hard time picking who I'm rolling with on this one because Bontrorin can get it done for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be a fun one. This is probably one of the most contested matchups that I had trouble just kind of figuring out on my own. But either way, man, we move on to the co-main event, brother. We got some heavyweights. Look at that headshot of Jake Collier, brother. Them shoulders looking thick, looking wide. This is a former middleweight who is a heavyweight, man. His nickname is the prototype for a reason. It's because even though he looks like that, he has the Parker Porter effect where it don't sleep on this man because he's fast as hell, man. His hand speed is ridiculous. His combos are ridiculous. His movement is ridiculous. His cardio is kind of ridiculous for a heavyweight. But like I said, this is a middleweight who moved up to heavyweight. So you have that muscle memory. You have the myelin sheath, right? You got the nerve fibers all firing still like you're a middleweight, even though you up a big boy 265. However, he's fighting a Muay Thai specialist in Chase Sherman. And listen, man, Chase Sherman hasn't had the best run as of late, man. He had some stuff when he got right back into the UFC. You know, he had a freak injury like 10 minutes before walking out against Andrei Arlovsky. You know, all of this weirdness going into it. But this is a new slate. Both of these fighters are coming off of a loss. So this is time to 0-0. Let's get a win on the board, right? Number 66 is Jake Collier in the heavyweight division. Number 46 is Chase Sherman. Minus 125 is Collier, though, with the plus 105 comeback for Sherman. AJ, I need to ask you this. After watching Chase Sherman's last fight against Parker Porter, who is pretty similar to a Jake Collier, if we're talking about literally frame, hand speed, all of those intangibles, do you think that this is any different of a matchup, really? Like, Chase Sherman seemed to struggle a bit against the output, the volume, and the speed of Porter. Do you think that's basically going to be rinse, wash, repeat in this matchup?
I mean, as much as I don't want to say it's going to be rinse, wash, repeat because it's a different guy and we're going to see a different sort of fight, I think it's leading a little bit more towards that way, man. Chase Sherman is almost being given like a redo, like a redo. Like, hey, man, I know things were a little hard last time in, the Parker Porter fight. We're going to give you another somewhat kind of the same guy because Jake Collier and Parker Porter, they're both big men that move very, very fast. When I was watching the Jake Collier's last fight against Carlos Felipe, they were talking about how he used to be a middleweight and, he could still make that. He just chooses to not do that to his body. It's the same thing for Parker Porter. It's the same thing. He just cuts down that little bit of weight. He can be fighting, at 205, 185, these weight classes, and having that speed and having that kind of, like you're saying, muscle neurons firing, it's a whole different level. And Chase Sherman, credit to this dude, because he's one of the only that came out of bare knuckle fighting. So he's not only having to deal with these dudes that are throwing 8 different limbs at you, getting crazy with stuff that you've never seen before, trips, ground game. He has a very, very high learning curve that he has to tackle. And I think the UFC is not necessarily doing him a favor here, but I do think they are providing him another litmus test to be like, all right, bro, we showed you what you got to beat last time. Can you beat it this time so we can give you something a little bit better on the next one? Who knows if that's actually the case that's going on, but it definitely feels like that. Is that what you're getting to, Derick?
Yeah, brother. I think that Chase Sherman is not one to be discounted, not one to be underrated, not one to be in any of those situations because even though he hasn't had the best UFC run, he's 3-7 in his UFC career, it's kind of crazy because it's like normally people get cut, and he did. He left the promotion and had to come back and whatnot. So in his new run, he is 1-2, with 2 losses to Parker Porter, Andrei Arlovsky. He knocked out Ike Villanueva, which was, that's a pretty big deal. Ike Villanueva is a very good fighter. So with that being said, man, I just think that he needs to put it together mentally. I don't think it's a physicality thing. I think it's a mental thing, right? He said he just didn't show up in the Parker Porter fight. So if he comes with a renewed focus, I think this could be a closer matchup because when it comes down to it, Chase Sherman has great Muay Thai. Jake Collier is more of a work with the hands, get the combos, move fast, head in and out, mixes up the leg kicks and the punch as well. Jab, left hook is such a dangerous combo for Jake Collier, but for Chase Sherman, man, he does a lot of good counter striking off of his back foot. So he could fight going forward, going backwards. It doesn't really matter. And like I said, man, using that Muay Thai should make it interesting. However, he does struggle a bit against the speedy guys, the fast guys, the dudes who are able to just volume him up, lots of movement. So I just hope that we see a renewed focus from Chase Sherman, the Vanilla Gorilla. But his best shot of winning is probably knocking Jake Collier out, which is a possibility. Jake Collier has been knocked out 3 times in his career, you know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I don't want to make any definitive, this is just the same fight all over again, but I do think that Jake Collier is a dangerous opponent that doesn't get the respect that he deserves. Even though Chase Sherman shouldn't be discounted, I think Jake Collier is a favorite for a reason. Now, minus 125, do you think that's fair odds with the plus 105 comeback for Sherman? Because that's kind of slight favorite, slight underdog. Both of these dudes have an opportunity to win. And if you look at Jake Collier, the people he's lost to is Carlos Felipe, right? Tom Aspinall, where he got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. But I mean, come on, that's like I said, this dude's gonna be fighting for a title in the near future. He loses to Devin Clark. Like, he's lost against legit dudes, but so has Chase Sherman. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a fair line. I mean, that 125 to 105 pro is definitely, it's a little bit closer. And I think it's weighed that way because of the Parker Porter fight and how similar Collier and Porter are.
Yeah.
I mean, the one I like Chase Sherman as a fighter. I agree with you. Does not need to be discounted at all. This dude's an absolute savage, grown exponentially in his UFC career. The problem is when his hand starts flying and the combos last, those 5, 6, 7, 8 punch combos, that's when he starts to kind of drift that head right back. Literally each punch he throws, he starts low and the head starts kind of coming up and he gets back to that, just swinging and banging kind of style. And when you have a dude that has fast hands, you can get caught in the chin real quick that way.
Do you envision this going, I mean, I don't want to, I guess we'll talk about over and under then. Do you see this going the distance, or do you see someone finishing somebody here? Just because Sherman is more of the finisher than Jake Collier is, but at the end of the day, man, if you're a big boy, all it takes is one. In this division, all it takes is one, and both of these dudes are there to get hit. Not the greatest defense by either fighter, so what do you think?
Yeah, not the greatest defense, and when you have, Ham Hocks just swinging in the phone booth, man, it's hard not to get caught. So do I see this one going to decision? Yes. I that's what I think it's going to be. I'm going with the over. I think this one's definitely going to be a longer bit of a fight because both these dudes are very experienced and going to be pushing that pace to not get knocked out. Excuse me. But I mean, these dudes got mallets for hands, bro. So you get caught once and these big boys put you right to bed.
Yeah, man, it's tough, and I'm going to go the over, too, just because if you look at the last 5 for Collier, he has not won a single fight via knockout. It's all been decision wins. If you look at Chase Sherman, he has 3 knockout wins, actually, in his last 5, but 2 of them came in the square ring promotion, so not in the UFC, and then 1 came against Ike Villanueva, who is no longer with the promotion anymore. So I think to be safe, going over 2.5 rounds should be a fair bet on this one. But I'm siding with Jake Collier on this one, man. Even though I got so much love for the Vanilla Gorilla Chase Sherman, man, I really do think that this should be a bounce back fight for him. He does get that redo. I just think the hand speed of Collier, man, when I watch him, it pops off the page. I'm like, you're too big to move that fast, dog. You know what I'm saying? But the power is the question. So I don't know who has the power edge in this one. It's probably going to be Sherman, to be honest with you, man. But either way, both of them are big boys. So I'm going Collier. Who are you going with on this one?
Yeah, I think Sherman might have the power advantage, but Collier is also a big dude, man. He just started off smaller. He was just a little bit more, dietitian ready. Yeah. But me, man, I'm rocking with Collier on this one as well. I'm going Collier by decision. I think this one's going to be a good fight for him. Honestly, this was a very hard one for me to pick because I do see the opportunity for Chase Sherman to be there. Yeah. It's just I think Collier is a little bit more well-rounded, and he really needs this fight a little. Well, they both need this fight for sure, but I think Collier is a little bit more in line to get this one.
It is interesting just because this is a co-main event and both of these fighters are under 500 in the UFC. So you would have to think that the loser of this fight probably gets the boot, unfortunately. So there's a lot on the line here. So we should see a very valiant effort by both fighters. But now, AJ, all of this aside, it is time to talk about the main event, brother. This is the fight that counts. This is the biggest one right here. The Boston finisher, number 5 ranked Calvin Kattar, is a plus 200 underdog, minus 240 favorite. Is the number 8 ranked Giga Chikadze, the ninja, man. This is a dude who's been storming through the division. I disrespected the man in his last fight against Edson Barboza by saying Barboza would win that fight. And when you watched it the first time, it was surprising. When you rewatched it, it's like really surprising how Giga just put it on Barboza from start to finish. The second round was a good round for Barboza, but Giga was in control basically the whole fight. Now, we haven't seen Calvin Kattar fight in almost a year to the date, dog. Literally, almost a year since the Max Holloway fight where he got it put on 5 rounds, basically, of just nonstop getting beat up. However, this is Calvin Kattar that we're talking about, and this is not just because you lose to the people's champion in the featherweight division, right, Max Holloway, does not mean that you're a bad fighter. Like, you cannot take a lot away from this man just because you lose to Max Holloway. And he didn't get finished either, which is that much more of an important task. Giga Chikadze has said it himself. He says, this is my biggest challenge in the UFC so far because Calvin Kattar he could take 500 punches in 5 rounds and still keep walking forward like a savage. So he was like, this is going to be tough. He's not just going to wilt. He's not going to lay down. However, I think he did saying that he's just going to smash Calvin Kattar, and it's going to be one of those. The question that I have for you, my man, is how much does the inactivity play a factor into this role? You haven't fought in a year. Giga's been very active. Calvin Kattar, on the other hand, you had to take that time to rest, let your brain heal, all that stuff. Do you think ring rust plays into a factor? If Dominic Cruz was here, he'd be like, oh, ring rust isn't real, da-da-da-da-da. But do you think that plays a factor? What do you think?
I think it plays a factor. I definitely think ring rust plays a factor, and there's a thing to be said for staying active. But honestly, in Calvin Kattar's face, or in Calvin Kattar's situation, I think it's actually better for him, man.
Okay.
He having that type of loss that he did to Max Holloway, that's embarrassing, man. Especially going out and saying that you're the varsity, going to show the freshmen how to show up, and you get absolutely put on and embarrassed in front of your peoples. Man, it's a hard thing. Not only physically, your face hurts, but your ego, man, it's hurting right there. And we all know, man, we love our ego, so you got to recover from that. I think that's really where we're going to see Calvin Kattar shine. He can either take this really, really good, take that break really good, and come back better than ever, or it's going to hurt him even more, and you're going to see an even worse Calvin Kattar. Once he's going to have that familiarity walking in, and last time he was there, he's like, damn, I got pieced up in here last time. All right, let's try this again. And, just going to have a little bit of doubt. I honestly think it's a better thing for him to have that time off.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing to let yourself heal and all that. I just think that being active definitely plays a part in being able to have those neurons and muscle fibers firing on point, you know what I'm saying, in that live action kind of, scenarios, those real scenarios, not just in the gym. You can never recreate what it is to go live in the cage doing your thing. And for Giga Chikadze, I mean, he hasn't been the most active, but he's been more active, right? It was just Cub Swanson and Edson Barbosa, I think, were his 2 fights last year. I don't know if Jamie Simmons, that might have been early in the year. So if he did, he went 3-0. If not, he went 2-0. The point is, he has finished his last 3 fights, 3 rounds. So TKO round 3, TKO round 1, TKO round 1. He got the Giga kick finish on Cub Swanson. He got the punches finish over Barbosa, even though he almost had him with the choke on there. And then Jamie Simmons, that was the fake the Giga kick, go head kick, and finish him right there. So a lot of kick finishes for Chikadze, man. And Calvin Kattar is a man who's known for using his hands. But this is the question that I have for you, man. Calvin Kattar likes to start off a little slow and feel his opponent out. Do you think if he takes that approach, Giga Chikadze is just going to put it on him in the first round? Or do you think both of these fighters are going to be willing to take that kind of feeling out approach and let the fight go on a little bit longer?
I mean, with how experienced and how dangerous these guys are, I always think they're going to play it out a little bit in that first round. You got to find that timing. You got to get it going, because the worst thing is you throw that kick and he's already stepping in to hit you with a 1-2 down the pipe. That's the one thing you don't want. But at the same point, you land an early one. You see him get tagged up a little bit, like how the Jamie Simmons fight went. And you see like, oh, I already hurt this dude and we're 30 seconds in. I'm about to put it on him. So I can see it going both ways, but I always tend to lean a little bit more towards the fact that they're going to get that timing, get that rhythm. Because to me, this is a fight of distance. If you're able to be comfortable in the pocket, in hands range, it's going to be a little bit more towards Calvin Kattar. He has the better hands, in my opinion. But if it's a leg distance kind of thing, Giga all day.
Well, so that was one of the points that I was going to say, is that Giga Chikadze, he likes to fight on the outside and utilize his speed to close the distance, right? Like, he'll hit you. So what's interesting is that, like, he'll hit you, and then he'll bounce right back out. Like, he's not stuck in that pocket, right? But he, like, closes the distance so fast and then comes right back out to get back. So he goes between punching range and kicking range, but he's never, like, in that middle range, right? Where Calvin Kattar, he wants to be heavy on the front leg, in there, throwing long combos at you. Real quick, that 1-2 is snapping, bro. If you remember his fight against Ricardo Lamas, man, all it took was a quick 1-2, shut the lights out. That was it. Game over, right? So he has the power, he has the speed to be able to close the distance on Chikadze and possibly hurt the man, finish the man. You never know. Even though Giga has never been finished via strikes in his career, he has been submitted once. He's never been finished via strikes. I think it's definitely a possibility. Calvin Kattar, he's never been finished via strikes, and he's only been submitted once. So on paper, it's kind of the same situation. Now, with the body work, both of these fighters rip the body, but in different ways. My question is, if a Calvin Kattar needs to be in the pocket to try to rip the body on a Giga Chikadze, man, do you think he's going to be able to be in that pocket safe, or Giga's going to have something for him? Just because Giga is very much, he's got that karate style, that karate background, right? But he's in or out. He's not really that dude who's like, I'm going to get in the pocket and we're going to trade and all that. I feel like if Calvin Kattar gets into the pocket, Giga Chikadze is going to try to move out, get back to distance, reset, do the thing. So being that crusher, being that take the fighter out of the flow state, the rhythm, can Calvin Kattar have some success here if he just decides to just fucking walk forward and say, I'm just going to crush this dude? What do you think?
I mean, I like the sound of it, Derick. I would like to believe that's the case, but all it takes is one quick step out to the side and then another blast right up to your liver, and you're really feeling it, and then that takes all the steam out of that forward momentum. I do think that Calvin Kattar could get that done. He could stay on the front foot the entire time. keep the kicks going, keep the kicks hitting right about knee, mid, shin level, so that way you're not actually feeling it dig into you and snap into you. But that's hard, man. With a kicker like Giga, that is very, very hard to do.
So how are leg kicks, like calf kicks, going to come into a factor in this fight, man? Calvin Kattar is so heavy on his lead leg, and I do believe that we saw it was either in it was one of these fights. It could have been the Lamas fight. It could have been the fight before the Lamas fight where he got pretty beat up in that calf, man, and people have taken advantage of it before. He does a good job of stepping out of range, though. So he's not checking him, but he's just getting out of the way, which is one of the best ways to defend a calf kick, honestly. Just don't be there, right? But how much do you think this plays into a factor? Because Giga, what he does is he can say, I'm going to hit you with calf kick, calf kick, calf kick. I'm going to the Giga kick, I'm going to the liver, I'm going to the body, I'm going to the head. Like, he's hitting you in so many directions, you don't know where it's happening because he's just throwing so much. And Calvin Kattar, even though he'll throw some leg kicks himself, like I said, he's very boxing oriented in his approach. Unless we see a new approach, like when we saw Holloway come out against Kattar, it was just like, oh, what Holloway is this? This is just, or Brian Ortega 2.0, kind of same example, where it's just like, oh, this is a revamped fighter. Unless we see a revamped version of Calvin Kattar, you would have to think those are probably going to stay the same. So how much of a factor do you think these leg kicks are going to be over the course of 5 rounds?
Oh, a huge factor, Derick. I think Giga Chikadze is going to be spamming kicks all day, left, right, up, down, no matter what, and staying away too. What I really like about Giga, he'll throw these kicks and he dips back. He's out of the way. Thinks that you are like his hands are down, so you think he can get hit, but you're nowhere near head level. You might be able to tag him up the body a little bit, but the second Calvin Kattar advances forward on that front foot, really puts that weight down, I think Giga's just going to be spamming that left leg, tearing that knee up, hitting those low calf kicks, getting you worried about those low shots, looking at him, bringing that eye line down, and then throwing that kick up top to the head. I just think that's Giga's game plan all day. It's been working so well. I think he's going to be spamming that leg kick left and right, brother.
Yeah, man, it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup, and I think that one of the biggest things that we need to take away from this one is that they also, in the back pocket of Giga Chikadze, is the grappling. We saw it against Edson Barbosa. He can go in there, try to get you, hit you with the Darce, hit you. He said he might hit him with the omoplata. He calls it a Giga Plata. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, I don't know if Calvin Kattar is going to play jiu-jitsu like that with you. You know what I mean? But I do think that the strikes that Giga Chikadze throws off of the liver kick are very impressive because he throws the kick and he throws hands immediately. However, that leaves an opening to get caught by a Calvin Kattar who can say, I'll time the kick and I'll take one because we know he has the chin. So he'd be like, I'll eat one and I'll give one right back. I just don't know if Giga Chikadze has been tested with the power yet because he hasn't been cracked with a big one. I haven't seen him get cracked with a big one where he's like, oh, you know what I mean? And Calvin Kattar has that capacity. But ultimately, man, I don't want to make this too much about, oh, Giga Chikadze is doing this, Giga Chikadze is doing that. You cannot discount Calvin Kattar. Giga wants the title shot, but he's fighting for number 5 right now. And Calvin Kattar has big wins against the Jeremy Stephens, where he knocked him out with the elbow, right? The win against Dan Ige, that was a decision win where Ige looked so beat up after that fight. Calvin Kattar hardly had a scratch on him, you know. So to do that to Dan Ige is so impressive. Obviously, the loss against Zabit Magomed Sharapov, who... Where is this man now? Let's get Zabit back in the mix, please, man. I know he's dealing with some health issues, but come on, brother. And then, like I said, Ricardo Lamas, he got the win there. TKO round 1 with that snapping one, too. I just think the long jab of Calvin Kattar might give Giga some problems, but Giga does have a reach advantage. So, I said it in the beginning, AJ. I doubted Giga in his last fight against Edson Barbosa, but you can only beat so many, like you can only doubt somebody so many times before you're like, okay, dude, you're legit. The same situation that I had with Cyril Gane, where I told you, I was like, I can't bet against this man anymore. And once I started betting on him, guess what? He's winning all the fights, right? So it's just like Giga Chikadze does look to be the future. He's 14-2 in MMA, 7-0 in the UFC. Listen, 5-0 in his last 5. He's on an absolute tear. And I think he's on, in total, he's on a 9-fight win streak or something like that. Something crazy. Ultimately, AJ, over and under and who you got, brother. Main event, this is the one that counts, man. This is heavy implications because the winner of this could potentially get a title shot in the near future for the against Volkanovski, or the winner of Volkanovski and Chan Sung Jung. So what do you think, brother? Who do you got?
Man, I'm going with the over on this one again. You know, it's still 2.5, correct?
It's 2.5 rounds, yes, sir.
Yeah, still going with the over. But the thing is, though, going back to the Zabit fight against that Calvin Kattar had, he might have lost that fight, but give him another 2 rounds and he was winning. Yeah, I honestly think he was winning probably 2.5 in round 3, like both of those. So he's not out, man. Calvin Kattar can easily get this thing done. He has the absolute heart and grit of a champion. Yeah. I just think Giga's a little bit more fluid in the techniques. We're going to see some things coming, but don't get me wrong, man. Calvin Kattar can easily get this dub. Me personally, I'm going Giga by decision. I think it's going to be a long fight. I don't think Calvin Kattar, I just don't think he can get finished. Homeboy has that dummy thick head that just takes all the punishment unless Giga can fake one like he did to Jermaine Simmons and come up top with it. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get finished. So I'm going Giga by decision. What about you, Derick?
You know what, man? I'm going to go with Giga Chikadze on this one too. And listen, I don't want to be overzealous here, and if I have to eat some crow, I will definitely eat some crow, but I do think Giga Chikadze has the capacity to be able to finish a Calvin Kattar, especially when you come off of a fight where you took so many blows to your head, man. Your brain only has so much. The chin can only take so much. So I definitely think that this could be the fight where Giga Chikadze, he's just a master of setups and a master of traps and master of doing this to get you thinking about this and hitting you with something that you didn't even see coming. So I'm going Giga Chikadze, and I'm going to go over 2.5 rounds, but I'm going to see a TKO round 4 in this one, man. I think that he's going to take a Cyril Gane approach, take the war of attrition, get him tired, get him beat up, and then hit him with the one where he probably not going to be a knockout, but a TKO finish. You feel me? So that's what I will rock for Giga Chikadze there, over 2.5 rounds, man. It's going to be a fun one, man. This one has very, very high implications, and clearly this one you could put on a pay-per-view right here, man. Like, this is a fun fight. So that is the main card breakdown, folks. We are back at it. It feels so good to be back, breaking down the sleepers, the prelims, the main card, the whole entire 9. And brother, at this point, don't got a segment for it, but we're gonna do it on the outro. Let's talk fight of the night, brother. Let me put you back up on the screen, and listen, we got a couple of them that we can go for, man, but I want your opinion. Who do you think knocks fight of the night, or notches fight of the night at UFC Vegas 46?
Ooh, there's a lot of them, Derick. There's a lot to choose from. I mean, that TJ Brown, Charles Rosa fight, that's looking pretty good as well, Derick. But personally, me, man, I'm going with my sleeper, or my previous sleeper, though, the one that came to the main card. I'm going Dakota Bush versus Slava Klaus Borishev, man. I think it's going to be an absolute dog fight, man, going forward. That's who I'm rocking with for the fight of the night. What about you?
Nice, brother. I think that, listen, even though I want to go my sleeper and all that, there's one that has just fireworks written all over it, and that is Brandon Royval versus Rogerio Bontrorin. Like, literally, every time Royval is in a fight, it is a banger alert right there. So I have to go with it. He has not proven me wrong yet. I think that should be a really fun one. So look out for that fight. It's on the main card, folks. Got 4 prelim fights, and we didn't talk about it, but yeah, Charles Rosa versus TJ Brown. That's a late minute replacement. Should be a fun fight. Jamie Pickett versus Joseph Holmes, man. That's got a banger alert all over it. Joseph Holmes says, I don't imagine this leaving the first round. I'm going to knock him out. Jamie Pickett, if you know anything about him, he is a powerhouse. He has struggled with the mental aspect of the game a little bit, man, but I definitely think that's going to be a fun fight. So once again, folks, feels good to be back. We ready. We at 'em. After this week, well, you know, obviously we do the preview show today, and then, you know, on Monday we're going to have the post show. We will officially have somebody who's either going to be in the lead or in the losing category for the head-to-head pick'em match, so stay tuned for that one. Definitely a lot on the line in this one, but I will say, drop a like if you haven't yet. If you're still rocking with us, we appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button for us. You know, it means the world. But the biggest thing you could do is you can share this with your friends. That's what's important, is just sharing it, saying, hey man, so you heard about this show, man? We got the short clips, we got the whole full clips, BloodyWaterPodcast.com. You know what time it is. AJ, brother, the last thing that I got for you, man, is I want a very quick prediction right here, my man. Do you think that this year's lineup of fight bouts from January to December are going to be more impressive, more exciting than last year's? Because it's kind of tough. It was weird. It was COVID. It was the new era of the UFC with the UFC Apex and doing all of these fights in Vegas and whatnot. But do you think that we're going to have an even better year this upcoming one than we did last year? It might be hard to notch, but what do you think?
Might be hard to notch, but I 100% think so, Derick.
Nice.
I think we're in store for some crazy shit that's going to be seen, man. Like, we've seen the game evolving leaps and bounds since, 1993, whenever it all started. But I think this year is going to be the one where we're about to see some crazy flash KOs, some highlight reel stuff going on. Going to be very fun to watch. Folks, you better tune in to see it. Like Derick said, if you've made it to this point, we appreciate all the love. Share us with your friends. It's free. Even if you got a couple extra bucks, hit us in the link. Let us know. Let us improve the show. Also, hit us in the comments. Tell us how we can get better. Let us know your picks. Come on, man. We rocking with y'all. Thank you for rocking with us. Man, couldn't have said any better than Derick himself, but I'm glad to be here. Woo, it's another year. I'm excited, man.
There we go. And I think I might have made the prediction that all of the prospects are going to be taking the place of the OG veterans, the OGs of the game, man. So if we'll see at the end of the year, we'll have to go revisit the predictions and previews that we did, but should be fun. All right, folks, that is it for us. Until next time, we'll catch you on Monday for the preview show. 8 a.m. Mondays and Fridays. Short clips drop at noon, respectively, Mondays and Fridays. You know what time it is. Until next time, folks. Peace.